Okay, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Planning and Heritage Committee meeting. I'll call the meeting to order. Do we have any declarations of conflicts today? Okay,
Yeah, on the STR discussion, I'm in conflict.
thank you, Councillor Buck. Okay, so we have one request of a change on the agenda. So before I get an approval of the agenda, I would like to make A, B, and B, A, if I don't have any objections to that. So we will do the Forested Land Priority Place Initiative Program first, and we will finish off with the short-term rental licensing bylaw. So everyone good with that?
Moved.
Okay. And seconded by Councillor McCabe? Yep. All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. So now I can have, is that approving the agenda or is that approving the
That's good.
change?
Agenda's approved.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Your Worship. Any business arising from the minutes?
Yep.
Go ahead, Your Worship.
So again, number 5 on page 3, the interim design review roster has been put in place. Yes. Follow-up, there are, again, a couple of files that are still outstanding. I know I did receive an email from Enwave. They are the energy from waste plant on Riverside Drive. And of course, there is also the proposed development on 1517 Richmond Street. I'm just trying to find out where they are in the queue. Madam Chair?
Yep, thank you, Your Worship. And perhaps I could refer that over to our Manager of Planning. Donna, if you are able to speak to that, can you?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to Your Worship. We are in the process of reviewing the development applications that you mentioned. The one for Richmond went to the interim design reviewer. He came back with some considerations for the developer. The developer has again submitted the application, and he has taken into consideration the comments that was made by the interim design reviewer, and so hopefully we should be having a design review board soon.
Thank you. And just through the chair to Donna, our Manager of Policy and Heritage. So Enwave, which is the owner of the Energy from Waste facility on Riverside Drive, they have a major project that is in the queue. Any update on that, again, through the chair to the manager?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to Your Worship. That one I will have to come back to you on. I know that it is at the stage where it should have gone to the interim design reviewer, but that I will have to confirm and give you a follow-up answer.
So, Madam Chair, again, I know that as part of the process, the Department of Development, Planning and Heritage oversees all these matters. But what I am receiving are emails from these property owners, and as an elected person, I'm just trying to respond in a public forum to ensure that they are getting updates. I know that the department is very busy, and I appreciate all the work they're doing. So again, this is not to meddle in your business, it's just to get updates. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. Any other business arising from the minutes? Okay, so we do actually have one here, an update on the official plan. So I assume, Donna, you're providing us, I just see it here, business arising from the minutes, update on the official plan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So we are currently at the stage where we are reassessing the draft official plan that was submitted by the consultants. We are going through to see the different areas that we need to look more closely at. There are a number of gaps and a number of things that we think are missing from the draft, and we will be updating that soon. And we will also be going back to the consultation process as soon as we are finished with the initial review. Also, it is something that will fall under another program that we're looking into, and that is the Housing Accelerator Fund, and to take up the whole process of ensuring that the official plan is aligned with the zoning and development bylaw. And so that process will look at that as well.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions on the update on the official plan? Your worship?
So, Madam Chair, I know today's meeting for Senate Committee for Strategic Priorities Communication and Intergovernmental Cooperation, this was a question I believe you raised, Madam Chair, if the proposal to the Housing Accelerator Fund is synchronizing, aligning with our proposed changes, overall comprehensive review changes to our official plan. And correct me if I'm wrong, Donna, but they appear to be very much in line.
They are in line. Sorry, through you, Madam Chair.
Sorry.
They are in line, and in fact, when we were preparing the application, that was taken into consideration in terms of the initiatives that are placed in that application.
Great, thank you. And also it was confirmed at this afternoon's meeting that we wouldn't be making the official plan and the change into zoning and development bylaw have to come first before the letter. Is that not correct? Because they have to, like, we have to make sure that we follow the proper process before we can actually accept or reject anything else going forward. Is that not what I heard this afternoon?
Madam Chair,
Yep.
could I just defer that through to Janice Harper, who
Sure, yeah.
is working on this file? Or is that all right, CAO Eleanor, or do you want to deal with it? Or Donna?
Thank you, Chair. I think I can clarify it for you. The letter is going after the council meeting, the upcoming council meeting, if council approves. In that letter, it talks about the commitments of what the federal government is looking for, but it's also pointing out within that letter that we adhere to a legislative process in terms of planning. So anything that we're agreeing to in that letter will have to go through the official plan and zoning bylaw process, which includes public engagement.
Yeah, you said it much better than I did. Thank you. Yeah.
Question.
Yes, go ahead, Councillor Beck.
Yeah, maybe through you, Madam Chair, to Donna. We did have the first round of public consultations on the official plan. What are the next phases of how does that look like? Because I remember they were talking about taking what we heard from those public consultations, consolidating it, bringing it back, and then where are we with that in terms of that process?
Thank you, Councillor Beck. I think that what Donna had mentioned was they are preparing an updated report based on the information received through the first public consultation process, and that will be coming back to this committee before we embark on another, and you can add to that too if you wish.
Before we embark on another round of public consultations.
Sorry, I was trying to figure something. I was trying to figure something on my tablet here, so I might have missed that already. But anyway, thank you.
Great, thank you. Anybody else have anything they would like to bring up in terms of the official plan before we move on to reports?
Yeah, it's,
Go
again,
ahead, Councillor.
Madam Chair, it's all about timelines and milestones and benchmarks. So we did these, I believe, 6 meetings in the spring, and then we went on siesta, and now we're getting that information down, putting it back into a package to present to, I believe, Planning Board or Planning Committee first. And then we have to, I'm sure, go back to more public consultation. So, Madam Chair, are we looking at another 12 months for a comprehensive review of the official plan? Because after that's done, then we have to go through a comprehensive review of the zoning and development bylaw. So I'm looking,
Thank you.
if it's possible to get some tentative dates.
Thank you, Your Worship. Do you folks have a timeline?
So thank you, Madam Chair. Your Worship, we will be doing the comprehensive review of the official plan along with the zoning and development bylaw, and that's how it's set out in the HAF application. So as long as we get the resources that we need and this funding going, then we should have the human resources that we could probably consult some services out as well to ensure that they are aligned together.
So just quick follow-up, Madam Chair. So would that be 6 months, 12 months, 18 months? That's just trying to get some visual markers.
So through you, Madam Chair, after we've done the initial assessment, we will come up with timelines as to the different phases, and that we can provide at a later date.
Thank you.
Go ahead,
I-
Councillor
'cause
McCabe.
When we approved we received the funding or approved the official plan, I thought we were supposed to be somewhere by now, like we had only approved so much. So are we kind of now, from what I'm understanding, just at a standstill with what we've got? Or where exactly are we with the official plan?
Thank you, Councillor McCabe. I see CAO Mohammed with her microphone, so I will.
She's
defer
jumping
to
in
her.
too. What?
I thank you, Chair, and through Councillor McCabe. The official plan was put on hold because there was no staff to work on the official plan, so it completely came to a halt. But it came at a time, was actually at a time when it was actually a good time to put it on hold. So in other words, it'd gotten to the stage where we had a draft, we'd gone through public engagement, and then it was felt that there were going to be enough changes to this draft that we would have to have another round of public engagement. There were a number of gaps in there, including addressing Indigenous people in Charlottetown and on the island. We felt that there needed to be more and greater engagement with the developers in understanding the economic models, the heights being proposed, if they were actually economically viable and could be built. So that engagement needed to happen with the developers. And there's actually a number of departments that need to be re-engaged in there as well, everything from climate action to stronger policies on drainage and things like that. So there is quite a bit of work that still needs to be done. But given what's gone on with the Housing Accelerator application and what's being asked in there is more than what was proposed in the initial official plan. So there is more work that needs to be done, more public consultation that needs to be done. And once you reach a certain point in official plans, you can pick up the zoning and development bylaw stuff. We could actually, with the funding in place, you can start it now, because part of that process of the zoning and development bylaw is reviewing what's worked and what hasn't worked without even starting building the new regulation into it. So if the Housing Accelerator funding comes through, both projects can pick up and get moving right away. The budget for the official plan has, we've worked through it all with the consultant that we had in place. So there'll be some decisions that have to be made because any work from here is out of scope from what we hired them on for initially. Thank you.
Thank you. That's kind of what I was looking for, because I knew we had that project funded from somewhere.
It was the gas tax transfer, which is now the Community Building Infrastructure Fund.
Right, and that
which
we
was
had to
$500,000.
really fast-tracked it because it was had to be done at a certain time and whatever. But I quite appreciate slowing the process down to do it properly. And we will have to find the resources to support this document that really is a basic foundation of our city.
Yeah, but Madam Chair, I think with the CBIF gas tax transfer, I think that the money was approved. If it has to be extended, we just have to send an application or a request to extend it. And if I'm wrong on that, please correct me.
I'm pretty sure you were right. I thought there was the fast deadline, which is where the panic was, and they kind of did it hand in hand with the strategic plan, and there was a specific deadline from what I understood. But it sounds like we've maxed out on that money anyway, so we'll have to look at expanding.
Thank you.
Okay, we can move on now, and we can move on to our first report, which is actually our second report, and that is the forested land priority, sorry, I better put my glasses on, oh my gosh, Priority Place Initiative Program. Okay. Who's got this one?
Hey, my name is Janice Harper, and I'm an independent planner. And I have prepared a short report on the Forested Land Priority Place Initiative. I think in your package, you may have received a short slideshow, and I know that staff and council members have a very busy day today. So essentially, to put this project in context, there's a lot of focus, as you have just discussed, on updating the official plan and the bylaw and to creating space for housing and specifically housing density. This project, which is a federally funded project, by the department responsible for climate change and environment, is focused on creating space, including forested space within municipal boundaries. This project is sponsored by the Federation of PEI Municipalities, and it's really looking at the other side of density and housing, because with the city growing and developing more, the flip side of that card is, where is the space for parkland? And in context, historically, municipalities have looked at parkland as a space for swing sets and trails. And parkland hasn't really been historically considered a space to develop urban forests. And of course, on Prince Edward Island, we now realize that forested land is very important and that it contains habitat. And specifically, this project looks at creating spaces for habitat in forested spaces, in natural areas within inside municipal boundaries. I think the slideshow was fairly clear in looking at that habitat does happen at the municipal level. A little history of the project, and then questions about how the city can promote urban forests. Municipalities can identify land for parkland, and in reviewing and preparing for this meeting today, I did note that the current bylaw states that council shall consider, when land is being subdivided, that anyone who subdivides more than one lot from a parent parcel shall set aside land for parkland equal to 10% of the land to be subdivided for public purposes. The bylaw does not indicate that natural area land specifically can be considered parkland, although sometimes it is. So, it's kind of, it could be, the language could be strengthened. But what became very, very interesting to me was that the draft official plan document is actually weaker than the current bylaw. And I think this may be a result of the continued focus on housing density and promoting density. So the draft bylaw statement actually only requires parkland dedications for all subdivisions of 6 or more lots. So, as an independent planner, it looks to me like the city is focusing on density, maybe at the loss of space for forested land or natural areas. The purpose of this project, and the purpose of my being here at your meeting today, is to ask for planning board in cooperation with other departments, including the committee responsible for environment and sustainability, to partner with the Federation of PEI Municipalities as the official plan is updated, or as it will be updated in the near future, to look at language to acknowledge that forested land and natural areas do qualify as parkland, and for language to clarify that this type of land would be considered for parkland as land is being subdivided. The project would also like to consider that municipal processes would involve potentially a review, an interdepartmental review, or a review with provincial departments that could provide information on habitat or on forest cover, or cooperation with staff from the local watershed association. Of course, the city of Charlottetown is a larger municipality, and you already have more formal cooperation and staff who are in more formal contact with the with the Watershed Association already. So what we're looking for is that council would prepare a resolution to participate in a pilot project that would focus on updating the official plan and bylaw to enable and develop parkland and/or protected areas, including urban forestry plans going forward. No outcome is required. We're just looking for participation in a pilot project. That's all.
Thank you. And Janice, just for clarity, when you were talking about, you mentioned taking this to planning board, but I'm thinking you meant planning committee, because that's
meant-
where we are
yes,
today.
sorry,
Okay,
yeah.
I was just clarifying that. So thank you very much for that report. So I see in the report that, so staff is recommending that council supports participation in a pilot project with the Federation of PEI Municipalities to explore updating the official plan and the zoning and development bylaw to enable and develop parkland, protect areas and/or urban forestry. So today, we're not asking for changes to the zoning and development bylaw and official plan. We're just asking if committee is willing to support staff's recommendation to then move on to council to support the participation in a pilot project. So does anyone have any questions for myself, or specifically more so for Janice, the expert?
Yeah, well, I guess through to Janice, through you, Madam Chair. So if I'm understanding this, you want environment and sustainability planning in the PEI Federation of Municipalities to work towards this, or have they already worked towards this? What was the connection there? I might have missed something.
So initially, I had approached staff responsible for environment and sustainability because forested land is kind of under their umbrella. But after some discussion with staff, it was decided that planning does make the decision, and any changes that would be made to the official plan or bylaw would have to come through planning. So although it's an initiative that's interdepartmental, this is the proper home for it.
Okay.
For the initiative.
All right, and are we looking at the current official plan or the proposed official plan?
The proposed.
So what Janice discovered when she was reviewing the draft new official plan, she's discovered that it's.
That it's weaker.
Weaker.
Right.
So that kind of flagged some of this, probably this discussion.
Okay.
And so therefore, that's kind of how we got here today. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yep, and Janice, if you have anything else you wanted to add for Councillor Beck, that'd be great.
The proposal is looking forward to the next review, or the next time the official plan and bylaw get opened up, which would be, I'm assuming, within the next year or so.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for that. Does anyone else have any questions? And if no one else has any questions, is there anyone that would like to put a resolution on the floor to accept staff's recommendation or not? Okay. Moved by Councillor McCabe to accept staff's recommendation to forward this along to council for this pilot project, seconded by Councillor Beck. Any questions on the resolution? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Okay, unanimously supported. Thank you. So that will move on to council at this month's monthly council meeting. So thank you for that. And we'll go on to the next report, and I think, Councillor Beck, you have to exit the stage left. Okay, back to the agenda. So the next item on our agenda is update on the short-term rental licensing bylaw, and I will hand that over to Donna. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the intent today is to provide the committee with an update on the short-term rental licensing bylaw, which will be referred hereinafter as the bylaw. It will give, the report that is, will give a synopsis of the genesis of the bylaw, provide an overview of the updated version, and indicate some next steps in operationalization. I will begin with a brief background. So the council adopted amendments to the zoning and development bylaw that included updates to regulate short-term rentals in February of 2022. The amendments came into effect on March 28, 2023. As part of these amendments, staff was also asked to develop and implement a licensing bylaw and a summary offense and enforcement bylaw for administrative purposes. The original bylaw, which is included in your package, passed its first reading on March 13, 2023. However, it was recommended to Council for deferral at a Planning and Heritage Committee meeting that was held on March 27, 2023, and this deferral is also included in your package. To address the issues that led to deferral, staff conducted an assessment and the following conclusions were made. Occupancy permits are not legally required for all short-term rentals. An exception can be made when an applicant constructs an addition to or alters the premises that they're using for this use. In such instances, if a building permit is required, then an occupancy permit would also be required. Under the National Building Code and the National Fire Code, a residence does not change its use merely by being rented on a short-term basis for 30 days or less. As was also confirmed by the fire department, if the residence is owner-occupied, as required under this bylaw, there is no change of use or occupancy reclassification required simply due to the use of the occupancy as a short-term rental. On to the current bylaw. The updated bylaw has an amendment to the definition of short-term rental, which now means the rental of an entire dwelling unit or a portion of a dwelling unit that serves as the operator/host principal residence for a continuous period of less than 1 month and defined as a permitted use by way of a tourist home. So the change from less than 28 consecutive days to less than 1 month was done to align with the province's timeline that they use for their definition, making the process more seamless. The updated bylaw has 12 sections. We've included authority having jurisdiction and unsafe conditions to the definitions, and this will align with the zoning and development bylaw. The STR application process will align with the provinces, with licenses running for 1 year. Applicants with a license who already have a license to operate STR must renew by April 1st of each year. Section 5.4 was updated to include subsection B, which requires STR applicants to obtain a registration certificate for the tourism and accommodation levy under the city's tourism and accommodation bylaw. This will also be a requirement upon renewal each year. The bylaw also outlines the grounds for revoking a license and the requirement to provide general liability insurance before a license is granted. Contravention of any provision of this bylaw makes an individual guilty of an offense and liable to a fine. The bylaw will come into effect on November 1st, 2023. However, an operator who already has Province of Prince Edward Islands authorization to operate a tourism establishment does not need to get a license under this bylaw before March 31st, 2024. The city's Planning and Heritage Department, along with other departments in the corporation, are currently in the process of operationalizing the application process of this bylaw. Given the proceeding, staff recommends that the Planning and Heritage Committee requests that Council approve the proposed short-term rental licensing bylaw and that council approves the increase of the fee charged for processing short-term rental applications from $50 to $175 to facilitate application processing and the provision of a license sticker to the respective applicants. Thank you. Any questions I'll take?
Thank you for your report, Donna. Any questions from His Worship or Councillor McCabe?
So Donna, today, the deputy and I were down to the Canadian Capital Cities Conference, and Melanie McKenna, who was legal counsel for the city, gave an excellent presentation of the history of this whole matter. I have just one of the files on this STR matter that has been going on. It was June 19th, 2019, was our first public consultation down at the Confederation Center, Memorial Hall. We had it before the summer started, which is probably a good time to schedule meetings. And I remember the meeting because there was one of the opponents of STRs, especially commercial STRs, come right up to our head table and went down the line, said, "Do you own an STR? Do you own an STR?" And so it's been like that right from the start. And then, of course, we were hit with COVID-19. We had to pivot. We had to modify how to bring people together 6 feet apart, walk around with a mic. And now we've come to this point, and I know that my colleagues, the deputy mayor and Councillor McCabe, have been sitting in this room, and I've been asking and asking. We have a summary offense ticketing system. We have a summary proceedings bylaw. And then again, I asked Melanie McKenna today, after her presentation, do we have a summary offense ticketing system in place? Now, I've been asking this for 3 years. So through the chair to Donna, and I know, Donna, you are only the messenger. Maybe the CAO can give us more, but you're the messenger. So is that all right, Madam Chair?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and through you to Your Worship. Yes, we do have a summary offense and enforcement bylaw in place. In addition to that, we have gone ahead and written to the province to have Section 227 of the Planning Act updated to include STR bylaw and licensing, because under this act, we would be able to issue tickets for persons who are in contravention of this STR bylaw, and we hope that this strengthening of that aspect of the act will allow us to be more forceful in terms of the enforcement aspect of this bylaw.
And I appreciate that, Madam Chair, because currently we have to take any person that contravenes a bylaw to provincial court. So I think, do we become the defendant, or we the plaintiff? I'm not going to get into that. But if I issue a ticket, if the city, through our bylaw enforcement officer, issues a ticket, then the person that gets that ticket and wishes to take it to court, he becomes the defendant and we the plaintiff. So that's we just have to get this moving so there's clarity. I know that we did talk about asking the province about where was it allowing us to issue tickets under the summary offense ticketing. They said, no, it's in the Municipal Government Act. But you're saying that we have to change one section in the Planning Act, which requires an amendment that has to be introduced to the House, and the legislative members vote on it to make that change. Is that correct? Through the chair to Donna?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Your Worship, yes, that's correct, and the process has already begun.
Thank you.
Can I piggyback on that? Because
Yes, go ahead,
the
Councillor Chair.
process has been done, but we know how long things take to change once it gets to the province. Because we're dealing with lots of things. So I'm wondering, we're going to put this in place and we're going to set up our November 1st deadline to run this, but we still haven't gotten approval to amend the Planning Act at the province level. We still don't have someone hired to do the enforcement once it gets a planning. So why are we putting rules in place when we can't, when we're not ready to enforce them, or we don't really have the backbone? Or I just need to wrap my head around that a little bit, and maybe I'm not completely understanding.
Thank you, Councillor McCabe, for that question. I think I'll defer that to our manager, Donna.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor McCabe. Under the existing summary offences and enforcement bylaw, we can enforce this STR licensing bylaw. It may take longer, we can't issue a ticket, but we still can enforce it under this one.
Did we approve that bylaw already somewhere? I'm trying to remember.
We amended and gave the 1-year grace period.
Okay, so we do have an actual bylaw, because I'm getting confused sometimes. Some of our bylaws go through police and then our planning, so maybe I just need to refine that
I
bylaw
think-
that we approved.
Councillor McCabe, I think we're talking about two different things. When you said we deferred something, you're referring to the licensing bylaw,
Yeah, I
right?
thought that's what we were deferred to.
Just to clarify, I know the CAOs, when we passed the amendments to make it very clear that an STR is your principal residence, that is already in place. We gave a 1-year grace period. This is to provide a licensing process to ensure that someone that wants to open an STR has to fill out this licensing application, submit it to the city, then if it's approved, can submit it to the province. That's what we're approving now. Councillor McCabe, you and I have been sitting with this Planning and Heritage Committee, Standing Committee, Heritage Board, Planning Board, talking about this for the last 3.5 years. I think I did get my answer for the summary offense ticketing system, but if someone wants to clarify what
I can
is
take
being
it.
asked.
I think what Councillor McCabe was referring to is, she's asking, when did we get this summary offense ticketing bylaw? That's what you're asking about, right? That's-
The enforcement piece, that bylaw, I
So
don't
we've-
remember
So
seeing
we
that
already
one.
know that the changes were made in the zoning and development bylaw. We get that one. And then we put the licensing bylaw on hold until we're here today. And then we've always been talking about this summary offense ticketing. So Council McCabe is asking, when, almost like you weren't aware that we had a summary offense ticketing bylaw. Is that what you're asking, kind of?
I think, absolutely, I am, because I thought we were still working, because we were told we had to, I knew we were working on an enforcement bylaw, but I don't remember
I think, though-
seeing it, or I think I need to re-see it, if
I
we have
think-
one.
I think we've always had the summary offense ticketing bylaw. We just didn't have the teeth to go with it, and that's the changes that are being made to the Planning Act. Because we do have a mechanism for enforcement, but our mechanism is only going to court. So the change to the Planning Act gives it the ability to actually write tickets and not just send a letter to say, I'll see you in court.
So is that part of our zoning and development bylaw? Is it in there? Because I'm trying to Google summer offense bylaw, and I'm not seeing it. So that's where I'm confused.
I'll bet you any money that CL Muhammad could probably tell us exactly where she could find that for us in the zoning and development bylaw.
Thank you, Chair. So it's not in the zoning and development bylaw. It's actually the summary proceedings bylaw, which was first effective in 1996 and was amended in 2002. So it's been around a long time. That's why it hasn't really come through while you've been here. So it's a sweeping bylaw for many different things. So it's not just a planning thing, it's an unsightly thing. It's used for many different bylaws. I'll double check to see if I can pull it up on the website with the
I
other
just found
bylaws.
it. It was
Did you?
amended last time in 2009,
Oh.
which is a long, long time ago.
Yes.
And I will read it, because again, is it go under police? Is it go under planning? Is it a combination? And I think this is where we got into confusion, because His Worship and I were on the same page with saying, to hire an enforcement officer for planning, it was going to look different than the bylaw officer that we have in place, because they have to follow the Police Act, and this is more following the Planning Act. Because we couldn't understand why they couldn't just go out and enforce our bylaw, breaches of bylaws regardless of any department. I think, Your Worship, wouldn't we have said that?
Councillor McCabe, I've been asking about the summary offence ticketing system. So have you. Then we discovered that we have a summary proceedings bylaw, which does cover nuisance bylaw, unsightly properties, and so forth. Now we're trying to get the STR, short-term rentals, in it. So if someone is operating a commercial STR, we can go in and say, with our bylaw enforcement officer, you are breaking this section of the summary proceedings bylaw, and here is your ticket. Now, if you don't agree with it, you can plead not guilty, and then it goes to court, or you can just go pay the fine. But you know what? For a parking ticket, if you don't agree with the parking ticket, you can also take that to court.
This looks like it's under the criminal code, though. When you quickly glance at the first part, it's more the criminal aspect when I'm reading this. So is planning under this as well? Sorry, I know it's a lot of questions, but
it's good.
if you can't answer them, then you're not really doing your job. Me, if I can't answer them when people ask. Not you, that's why I'm asking you. Thank you, Donnie, you're doing a great job.
Yeah, over to you, Donna. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor McCabe. So the summary offences and enforcement bylaw that we are currently updating will include different elements that operate throughout the corporation. So as Your Worship and the Chair had said before, it does include aspects that the version of 2009 does not include. And we would also be looking at incorporating the STRs into that. And then this would also be the mechanism under which our bylaw officer will operate. So that's the one that we specifically put out for this one.
And I guess that circles me back to my very first question I asked. So should this not be in place and approved before we start saying November 1st is our date that we're going ahead with that? Am I missing a piece?
Because under the current one, you still can enforce, but not just issue a ticket. The ticket is just a mechanism of enforcement, just one of the mechanisms that are in place to enforce this particular bylaw. And it might be the one that is easiest and the one that we are trying to ensure that we get updated through the amendment of Section 227 of the Planning Act.
Okay, maybe we can add this to our next committee meeting for further discussion once I have a chance to read it. I'm sure I might have more questions on clarification. I'm sorry, it's a lot of information, and you have done a very good job. But for someone that doesn't read this stuff every day, I just want to make sure I understand. But
So,
thank
Madam
you.
Chair, if I could just say, if Councillor McCabe goes to page 6 of the 11-page document, you see the Schedule B, where it says dog control bylaw. Those are the fines, fire prevention. Donna, our manager of policy and heritage, will add STR to that list. That's
And fences?
under offenses, yeah, and then it
No,
it
and
says,
fences?
yeah,
Pool
well, okay,
fences?
but it says a minimum and maximum. You have to give that, and then the timeline is 90 days.
Yep, thank you, and that is good. It's good to see this, so that's what I mean. It's old, and it needs updating, but I appreciate having this information.
Thank you, Councilor McCabe and Your Worship. I had a question. Last spring, when we deferred this licensing bylaw, one of the things that was to be part of the timeline before we were back here today was the communications and education piece around the licensing bylaw. And I realize everyone's been very busy, and that has not taken place. So I'm just wondering, how do we speak to that, and what's our path forward, since we haven't done that educational communication piece around this licensing bylaw?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry.
She's going to give you a chair. Laurel's going to give you a chair.
Thank you.
We'll have to get a bigger table.
Myself and Donna and some of the other managers that are involved in the STR and of course the TAL, because TAL is entwined in this as well. We have been meeting over the last few weeks to discuss how things are developing and where we can create a communications plan that is going to be able to prepare everybody for how these changes are actually going to be implemented and what they're going to mean in practical terms. In terms of what we had discussed for this summertime, I have been in contact with both finance and planning, but wasn't made aware of any significant amount of challenges that they were dealing with in terms of questions coming from the public. So we've been working on something, and we do have something that is on my desk waiting to be edited in terms of in the lead up to these changes coming into effect. But it wasn't deemed a high priority because none of the departments were fielding a huge number of questions on confusion around it. We did do some interviews at the beginning when the changes were initially made, and that seemed to have dealt with the matter.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I wasn't aware that staff wasn't fielding any of those questions, because I know as the counselor in that area, I've been fielding a lot of questions around that, but I do appreciate that update. Does anyone else have any questions? Okay, thank you very much for that clarification. So we have a staff recommendation on this report from our manager, and the recommendation is, given the proceedings, staff recommends that the Planning and Heritage Committee request that council approve the proposed short-term rental licensing bylaw, and that the Planning and Heritage Committee recommends that council approve the increase of the fee charged to process short-term rental applications from $50 to $175, and to facilitate, and that is to facilitate application processing and the provisions of a licensing sticker to the respective applicants. So that is staff's recommendation. Do I have anyone that wants to put a
Moved.
resolution on the floor? Okay,
Moved.
moved by His Worship, seconded
Yep.
by Councilor McCabe. So all those in favor for council to
Madam
review
Chair,
this?
could I just ask?
Yes.
So, again, Donna, again, through the chair to Donna. So if I look at the second part of your report, Donna, where it talks where you've redlined certain sections, that will be part of the package going to council, which is just to say definitions have been clarified. What else has been clarified? Other parts, section 5.4, subsection B, the owner obtaining a registration certification with the tourism and accommodation levy in accordance with the city's tourism and accommodation, that'll be taken out. So that has to be clarified, you know, when we present it to council on Tuesday, the day after Thanksgiving. Correct?
Through you, Madam Chair, yes, those will be.
Thank you.
And just for clarification too, do we have to start over again with the first reading?
In our discussions with the legal team, they had suggested that we should probably start at first reading again, given the number of updates that has been done to it, so, yeah.
Okay, so any other questions? No. All right, all those in favor of this moving along to council? Okay, one is in favor, so thank you very much for that. Okay, does somebody want to find Councillor Beck? And then we'll see if we have an introduction of any new business.
I got it.
Okay, thank you.
It's in the lunchroom. Norman?
What is it? Bring that up, we'll have it.
For new business? Jack,
Yeah, Jeff.
Okay, so do we,
Just 1 minute. he's coming.
okay, he's coming, yeah.
I can probably ask it anyway. If we could add for our next committee meeting, if we could relook at the garden suite land use, when we had talked about moving from 0.5 acres to 0.33, if we
Moved.
could discuss that at our
Moved. I'll
next
second
committee.
that. Yeah, let's do that.
Does anyone else have any
Yeah, let's do
introduction
that.
of any other new business for our next planning?
Could she just repeat it, please, so Councillor Beck
Just
can
that
hear
I'd
it?
like to be able to look at revisiting the garden suite requirement of land from 0.5 to 0.33 acreage within the city.
Good. I agree.
Okay. And if anyone has any other agenda items for our next month planning committee meeting, just shoot me or Donna a note, and we'll be able to add those to next month's agenda as well. Okay,
Move to adjourn.
okay, yes. Pardon me?
Adoption of the minutes. You went to Business Horizon. Moved.
Oh,
Yeah.
adjournment?
Motion, no, number 4, adoption of minutes. You went right to the Business Horizon from the minutes because you want to hear me speak?
Yeah, okay,
Okay,
I'll move a motion to adjourn.
okay.
move. Thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody.
Well, you gotta see.